from a galaxy far, far away.
And a bookshelf straight out of the 90s.
From Thrawn to Dantooine
And everything in between. This is Legends Look Back.
As many of you know, because, hey, you're here with us every week live on youtube.com/YOUTINI, or as we discovered at Star Wars Celebration, some of y'all listen in your earbuds or, your vehicles and are not here live in the chat, which is awesome and also kind of weird because we're getting so used to the live show thing. So as many of you know, regardless of how you watch the show, I went through a big moved from Massachusetts to Arkansas earlier in the year. And the house that we purchased had a huge above ground pool in the backyard. We tried to finagle the deal to get the pool hauled away, and we failed, and we acquired a massive mosquito breeding ground. Not just mosquito breeding ground, also frog breeding ground.
Mm-hmm. What a biology lesson.
So many.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Christian. I believe in science. So I'm kidding for the record. But there was so many mosquitoes that the frogs couldn't even keep up with them. The mosquitoes would just like swarm around the frogs, and they were like, "Croak." Do they just talk to each other?
Yeah.
So finally, it was.
frogs.
Y'all ever had a project that was so incredibly big in front of you that you couldn't, and you knew like if you just started it, it would be okay, and you could get it done
like a
one day at a
flamethrower.
time.
Like a
But
flamethrower.
You
Not
just
okay.
couldn't get started on the project, just like absolute paralysis.
Sure. Yeah,
That's-
like every writing
that's-
assignment ever. Yep.
That's what this was. I would just
Oh,
look
fun.
at this mosquito infestation and I would just be like, nope, and walk back inside. Right.
There's some
so-
fish in there.
Mm. Finally, we did it. We drained the pool. My wife and I got in there with push brooms and pushed the rest of the muck out. I mean, we're talking about this place made Dagobah look like that planet where Biggs and Porkins go on vacation. And the canon commons, the comics, like with the Loch Ness monster. It made it look like a
Yeah,
yeah.
paradise. All right.
Mhm.
Chandrila, Mon Calamari. I don't know. Other planets with beaches.
Imperial sanitized.
Yeah. So, as Skuma Joe says in the chat, Jared's out here with a Nalatree frog habitat in his backyard. They're a delicacy out here. Very true.
That is true.
And so we cleaned it out. It's crystal clear. It took us like 10 days of hard work. And by that, I mean mostly my wife. I did some. And we got it up to speed. We're out there swimming the other day, finally enjoying the fruit of our labor. And you know what you can't really do in the pool? Like play on your phone. So I'm out there with my kids and I'm like, I guess I have to talk to you now. So we just kind of
interaction.
We just kind of cycled through list of favorites, right? All right, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite animal? My daughter's is a unicorn, by the way. Proceeded to explain to her, I don't believe in unicorns. Couldn't see her. Yeah, that's right. That's right. They're not
No
in the Bible.
science,
They don't exist.
no unicorns.
That's right. So
Next,
you're gonna
tell me narwhals are real.
Jury's out on that one. I've heard they're real, but I've not seen them, so I don't believe yet. Long story short, man, this has been a long tirade. We got to the point where I then started asking Star Wars favorites, like what's your favorite Star Wars character? What's your favorite Star Wars movie? Those sorts of things, right? Favorite color lightsaber. And then we got to a heated discussion. By that, I mean, I think I ranted at my family for 30 minutes solid, and they were trapped in the pool with me about the difference between a Lapti neck and Jedi rocks. You guys know what I'm talking about? Lapti neck versus Jedi rocks.
I didn't until you sent it in Slack earlier.
Okay, so Emily, give the good folks some context on what this debate is all about.
Okay, so there's two songs. When you go into Jabba's palace, and I forgot the specific movie, but it was one of the original trilogies. Which one is it? The second one?
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, there you go.
Fake fan.
My bad. I don't know specifics. That's why I'm on this show, to be the dumb one.
No, you learn the
so
specifics. Yeah, we got you too busy reading Legends books to actually sit and watch Star Wars movies.
Right. All right. So you go in and like it sets the scene of the whole like Jabba's palace vibe, right? There's like it's kind of like a nightclub thing. So there's like an original song where you kind of see like lots of different characters, different aliens and stuff. I guess that's the Lapti neck one.
Correct. Yeah.
And then there's
the
like
original.
this remastered version that's like its own thing. And it's like a whole separate, like it's no longer like setting the scene. It's like commands your full attention for no apparent reason.
It's a performance.
And that's it.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a full-on like Disney movie musical number.
Very strange.
And
It's a performance.
Do not like.
We're
And it
all in
requires
this
your attention.
together.
yeah, Freddie said it requires
School
your
Musical.
attention.
It
And
does.
now here's the deal. Yeah, that came out in the special edition 1997, which was when I was first introduced to Star Wars. I didn't hear Lopty Neck for a few years, and then I've heard it very sparingly since. So Lopty Neck, I have trouble even remembering. What's it sound like, Freddie? You got it off the top of your head? Is it
D-Neck? Something like
Yeah.
that. It's kind of like a cafe jazz, if I could.
Yeah, it's
I'm not
It's
even sure
great.
if that's right.
It's like kind of like backgroundy kind of music, but you get like a nice survey of the
It's-
whole room.
it's a little bit more exotic, you know,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel like any Earth-based genre. It's kind of got a little jazz,
that
That was the point.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the point.
some syncopated hits, you know.
Syncopated.
Here's the problem with Lopty Neck is it's not assertive enough. It's boring. I am
Wow.
Team Jedi Rock.
Those are fighting words.
The best thing to happen in the entire special editions.
Maybe
I said
you're
it.
not assertive enough, and you're not.
What a
What is this
terrible
opinion if not assertive enough?
I know.
I am
You're
team.
wrong.
Here's
Yeah.
all right. So I like hip hop. I like rap. Right. So I love a good I like a good featured rapper. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like
Should we name some?
like when Chance the Rapper
Yeah.
comes in on Holy by Justin Bieber, that's some good stuff, man.
Okay.
When he goes, Chance the Rapper. Ah! I'm like, oh, here he goes. I'm getting literal goosebumps right now thinking about when he came on SNL for that. So that's what that the Yuzum, the one with what's the thing in the back of his neck? Uvula?
Joe Yowza, right? That's his
Yeah.
name. Joe Yowza.
Wait, I always mess it up with urethra.
Just
and it's a
no,
big
and
problem.
we went there again.
It's a big problem. Have I done it on the show?
Yes.
Yeah, you have.
It was
get
it was an
confused.
ad. You're just ad bait, Jared. We're gonna have another ad on this now.
I get him confused.
Yeah.
So yeah, his name is Joe what?
Joe Yowza.
Oh.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
this?
I had no idea.
See, the thing is, I love Lopty Neck and I love Jedi Rocks. They both
Oh, that's a
are,
great opinion.
they're both, you can tell which version you're watching based on that song for sure, right? That's a key.
Yeah, that's true.
They both sing true in my head as if they were both sang at Jabba's palace.
Sure.
There's nothing to say that it wasn't. So I like to think that it was just, maybe a different part of the scene that they wanted to show, or a different song.
Yeah, they could both
Yeah.
be in their set list. That's right. And so
And I'll never
George-
forget when I first heard it, I was like, whoa, I gotta learn these lyrics, man. And Joe Yowza coming in hot, just looking right at you in the camera, kind of breaking that fourth wall. It's the weirdest thing ever. I'm not sure why they decided to do that, but you know what? I'm down.
So
a
Skooma
little
Joe says
jarring
he's
for
going to
me.
change his last name to Yauz. The only thing I have to say to
mean-
that is Yauz. Am I right? So
Yeah.
now, Freddie, before the show, before we do this, I gotta say I'm Team Jedi Rocks. Emily is very over here, very firmly Team Lopty Neck. As an OG, hey, a lot of people respect that. I think I'm definitely in the minority opinion here. However, guys, where are you? Over here. Yep, nope, there. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your opinions?
I'd probably prefer Lopty Neck. Okay, let me ask you this: the VHS box set, is that gonna have Lopty Neck, or does it have Jedi Rocks? I can't remember.
It depends.
There's two or three different.
That's what I was
VHS
thinking.
sets.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah. The special edition VHS that
I'll
will
go
have
grab mine.
Jedi Rocks.
Okay. I think I have the blue TX remastered, but I don't know if it's. Let's see what you got there.
Yeah, the blue bad boys
Uh-huh.
are Lopty Necks.
Okay.
So it's actually kind of a magenta Return of the Jedi, which is
Yeah.
that magenta above Yoda's
Mhm.
kind of flimsy face there is the
Yep.
weirdest, most beautiful thing that ever happened to Star
I
Wars.
love it. It's great contrast. I love it.
Speaking of which, we got Leia on the back here.
Don't look
All
at
right. Putting it away. The gold ones are Lopty necks. Now, the fun thing is with these, let's see if
Jedi
I can
rocks.
capture the sound on the air. I'm holding the gold special edition VHSs that I received for Christmas in 1997. Here we go. Still smells like Christmas morning. You know what I'm saying?
It's so weird that you smell everything, Jared.
These smell really good. Growing up, I smell these things every day. It
We
explains
have
everything about me.
senses for a reason.
That's a little
The
interesting.
mix, the chemical, what is it, of the acetate film or whatever it is.
Oh.
There it is. Here
That
it
was a
is.
sound.
Party.
This is my entire childhood, is sniffing these and then making this noise. No, here, I got it. Come on. Yeah.
What in the world?
Yeah,
Oh,
there
there it is.
Oh my gosh.
Woo!
Yeah. So
Good times. Good
now
times.
there's on those special edition VHSs a documentary of George Lucas explaining every last change in the special editions. And he's like very much not having a good time, but very passionately explaining why these were the right changes to make. He gives like a good 5-minute explanation on everything that's good about Jedi rocks. And
Really? Okay.
let's just say this much. It rocks. It rocks. So check out the documentary if you haven't yet. I'm not going to mail you my VHSs, so you're going to have to find it elsewhere.
It's probably on YouTube.
However, if you haven't heard the song, here to help us with his own rendition is none other than my good friend and the greatest singer since Bill Murray sang Star Wars in the Lounge Club back in the 80s, Freddie C.
Fred Yowza.
Yeah, Freddie Yowza. Here we go.
It's a great stage name.
Ready. Welcome,
Yeah,
Freddie.
that's right. You ready, guys? You ready?
Let's do it.
Oh,
Here it
we're
is.
ready.
All right, here it is.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Legends Look Back, proudly part of the YOUTINI Podcast Network. This is a Star Wars books podcast who will absolutely derail your pool parties with the discussion of Droopy McCool and Max Rebo's booty, where we celebrate our rich EU history as well as dive into lesser-known Star Wars classics. I'm your host, Jared Mays, and I'm joined by my legendary co-hosts trying to survive the monsoon, holding it off with the sheer power of his Joe Yowza vocal cords, Freddie C.
I have to admit, did not come into the show today knowing that was going to happen. So
That's very fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you for taking one for the team.
you know what? Just to get some conversation going, Discord, everybody, Jedi rocks or Lopty neck. Let us know.
What was your take, Freddie? Did you say?
I really do enjoy Jedi rocks. I like Lopty neck too for some nice chill study music. But if I want to
nothing
party,
wrong
I'm
with
going
it.
with Jedi rocks.
All right, Freddie's on my side. I knew I loved you. You know who else I love in a totally normal way? Fresh off her triathlon, Emily Daybeck.
Yes, it's true. I did a triathlon this week. I'm also moving this week, hence empty, awkward bookshelves and like no cool things behind me. I'm working on it. Movers come tomorrow to evacuate us from our house. And
Evacuate.
I don't know. Not really.
Is California that
evacuate.
bad?
No, I actually really don't want to move. I really like it here. I love the desert. Oh my gosh. Anyway, that's a whole rant. But yes, I did a triathlon. I bought a road bike on a Wednesday, and then I did a triathlon on a Saturday, and now here I am. So I'm
That's
really loving
amazing,
cycling.
Emily.
However, I was really excited, thinking like, oh, I'm like,
Did we lose Emily?
Yeah.
I lost audio. Hold on, Emily.
I'm
We
gonna
can't hear
take it
you.
out.
All right, hey, try it again. We lost you for a second there.
No, really?
Yeah. So start over. You did a
Sorry about
triathlon.
that.
What about it?
Yeah. Apparently my internet's doing weird things. Not sure about that. Anyway, so I was like, let's try mountain biking, right? Maybe I underestimated it. Took it out yesterday. And I'm like really confident. I'm like, I know no limits. I'm like popping curbs. I'm like, roads can't define me. Like I'm like cycling, hit some sand, bam, fell completely.
Oh, man.
I've got bruises over like half my legs. It was a very humbling experience where I was like, okay, mountain biking, very hard, very difficult. I will need to work at this. So anyway, that's my story.
That's awesome. I've
Nice.
started looking into what like doing a triathlon since that. You inspired me. You are an
It's really
inspiration,
fun.
Emily.
Fitspo.
Oh, thank
The
you.
last time I tried training for one, I ended up in the hospital for a week and had hallucinations
Garrett.
for a year as an allergic reaction to the morphine they gave me. So,
Nice.
Oh,
yeah.
What a story.
What?
Another day. I'll show you my scars. They're beautiful.
Mm.
You know who
Did
else
you
is
wake up in
beautiful?
a vat?
Thank you for that.
Our producer, more of a yeah, hey, he's a triathlon guy, more of a sci-fi triathlon.
Hey.
With Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, and Star Wars. Rick Grace.
So say we all. There we go. Talking about fitness, I share this joke with the youth group. It's not original, but it's a great one. The only fitness I'm concerned about is fitness pizza in my mouth.
Hey.
Oh, no. Moving on from that one.
Yep. It's good.
But this has been a fun start. We're going to be talking about some dark and edgy things tonight. We are, of course, wrapping up. I still am stuck on that friggin' joke, man. We are talking about a Sith Lord who would surely skewer Rick for that dad joke. That is, we are finishing our 6-part roundtable, if you really want to count the entire trilogy, or 7. There was
Good
an
point.
episode way back in the day with Eric about the Darth Bane trilogy. Since we're going to go into such dark and edgy, broody territory, we had to start it off light with some Lopty neck, you know what I'm saying? So however, want to finish up our discussion of the characters and then also get into some of the big overarching questions. Also, last week we forgot to rate this with our new rating system that's not numbers and it's more nebulous. So that's fun. All right.
I rate it blue.
Emily, I rated pizza. Now, Emily, we're
pizza.
we are going to start it off with you since she is, after all, your favorite character. That's right. We're talking about Darth Hannah. What is her most compelling attribute? Now, we talked a little bit about Bane's last week. I do, however, want to hear your thoughts on Xana's. Is it A, Sith alchemy? B, hey, this is going to be spoilery, by the way, everybody. You've been warned. So speak now or read the book. All right. Sith alchemy. 2, Sith sorcery. Number 3, her double-bladed red lightsaber. Is it the D option, being able to put up with Darth Bane for 20 years because you know that he is just so certain that he is right about everything? Or is something else entirely that's not on my radar? What makes Xana a great Sith Lord?
It's got to be the sorcery.
Yeah.
100% the sorcery. I mean, like, also putting up with Darth Bane for 20 years because he's quite a character, but I really love Xana's sorcery. You don't get another Sith that does that, really. So the fact that she can be a really powerful Sith in her own way is really cool to me. I love that.
I think the cool part that it highlights, Emily, is there are different types of Sith.
Yes.
Right? That's the cool part. And Darth Xana is more of like, if I were to put all of the Sith or the dark force users on a scale, you'd have like the witches of Dathomir, and then you'd have like Revan, right, who's just brute force, power, fighting, etc. I would put her closer to the witches of Dathomir.
Yes.
I feel like that's where her skill belongs.
Oh, that's a good point. I can see that.
And it's pretty cool. I personally I agree with Emily. I love the sorcery and the alchemy, just conjuring things from nothing, from the dark side. That's crazy.
Here's another connection. In Path of Destruction, Bane rides a friggin' Rancor. In Courtship of Princess Leia, the Dathomiri, what are they called? The Night Sisters ride freaking Rancors. Boom, we did it. 7 Kevin Bacon in two connections. All right, Rick, are you what is it for you that makes Xana a compelling Sith Lord? Emily says it's the sorcery. Freddie agrees.
Yeah, I think either that or her mind, like the tactical, well, I don't know, she does kind of drag her feet a little bit. I don't know. I've gone back and forth. But I think, are we saying alchemy is separate from her witchness, or are they the same?
I would say
what is the alchemy part?
That one was highlighted more in the second book, right?
Yeah. The not poisons, but like the opposite of healing. So I guess poisons. Yeah. I like the thought of the way that she can torment someone's mind, that's truly dark, that she pulls out the deepest fears and secrets and just plays with them, and then literally can send them into madness that they can't recover from. Like, that's terrifying, and even Bane has a hard time resisting, or not resisting, but combating that ability. So that was very powerful.
You can't forget about her skills in combat, though. She is absolutely skilled with her lightsaber, and there's no doubt about it. It just the fact that every fight she's in, she can analyze the whole fight, your stance, the things that you do wrong, your weaknesses.
That's true.
And simply just by defending herself, almost as if it's secondary, like she's not even thinking about defending herself. She's just looking at you and analyzing you. She's such a master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's completely opposite of Bane. She's a really good counter character, because Bane is very forceful, and she is very like redirecty. I don't know how to say that well, but
totally redirecty. That's the right way to say it.
But like, there's different ways of being strong, right? There's different kinds of intelligence, different kinds of strength, and she is strong mentally and like in a redirect kind of way, which I think is telling, because that's how we function too. It's very human, and it's nice to see, because like, you're not going to meet a woman almost anywhere that's going to be stronger than a man in that way, like stronger than like Bane, right? Because he's massive.
I mean, she makes the point that he's a brute. He worked in the mines.
Like, he's an extreme
military.
He's a Dorito chip.
Extreme Dorito.
All right.
Never heard that one before. That's a good one.
I'll tell you what, there were some points where she, with the conjuring the snakes, where I was out running, and I remember like looking in front of me, and like I remember turning around and being like, "Any snakes?" Because I don't like snakes. And she had effectively conjured snakes onto the sidewalk where I was standing. That's how convincing it was. Yeah, we've got some great comments in the chat that strong ability would be her ability to be patient and plan.
Oh yeah.
However, I'm not sure that she did the best job of planning for an apprentice. I found Set Hearth, her choice of her next in line, questionable. Let's talk about
that. What a terrible choice.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily, you're anti-Set, which I find a little bit confusing, distracting, because my brother-in-law's name is Set. No, I messed it up. Seth. My brother-in-law is Seth, Bible name. We talked about those last week. Seth, and so his name is Set Hearth. So his last name starts with an H. So his name is just Seth, right?
Seth Art.
Seth the Sith, right? Yeah. So anyway, why don't you like him?
Oh my gosh, he drives me crazy. He doesn't have, like, he gets bored after 10 minutes. Like, I'm sorry, what are you, 10? Like, who gets bored after 10 minutes and is like, you know what? Instead of doing this thing you asked me to do, I'm going to do a completely different thing that's entirely self-serving. Like, none of that is Sith. None of that is evil. What a terrible choice. I don't understand. Like, sure, he's powerful, but like, I don't know. I don't understand her need to rush into getting an apprentice at all. Cause like, if you see the Sith across time, they don't necessarily choose an apprentice before they defeat.
They're still figuring this out. She's the second one.
That's true. I don't know. I just finished Plagueis too. So it's kind of like I'm comparing the two.
Yeah. Yeah. Plagueis, I think there's decades at one point where he doesn't have an apprentice, right?
Yeah. It's
but
definitely a long game. And she's definitely playing I have to have an apprentice before I kill Darth Bane. And
yeah, we see,
he just drives me crazy.
The Palpatine
when he's like
era.
Juggling 10 things, like who just decides, oh yeah, I'm just going to juggle things and then like get tired of them and drop them all. Like,
does he juggle?
Yeah.
Like a clown?
Like, yes. Set Hearth, he like starts throwing things around. Like, he's such a child.
Yeah.
And like, I don't understand how she didn't see that.
Adults can juggle too.
But not serious Sith types.
I think I missed that one. My mom was a professional clown and she juggled.
That's right.
But would you put her up there on the dark side spectrum?
Sometimes if I was in trouble. Okay. So Siddharth, we all agree that he was a terrible choice.
Yeah.
Freddie, you're
2
not
out of 10.
you're not thumbing it yet. Wish I hadn't said that.
Well,
What do you think about Siddharth?
I'm not too fond of him. Well, how do I put this? He's not a Sith. He's not a Jedi. But
He's a pretentious collector like
Yeah,
us.
It's really hard to describe because he's not a gray Jedi, right? Because
There we go.
it's cool.
Freddie, we're gonna have to turn this into like another one of our drinking games where every time you say it, people have to ring the bell or something like
Gray
that,
Jedi.
right?
Yeah. But he's not quite a Sith. He's not quite a Jedi. He's almost just like a selfish pirate who happens to be trained by
That's a good way to put
Jedis.
it.
Mm.
Yeah.
He's a
And-
Jedi who took the red pill. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like, I'm too woke for y'all, and he walked away from the order, bought himself a mansion, some flashy robes,
Yeah.
and started
Steals
collecting
things.
holocrons. Yeah.
It's like the evil version of Valentine for a follow.
Yeah, I could see that.
Oh.
I could see that.
Hold on. Does he have goat hooves?
That's an excellent question. Who knows?
He probably could buy them.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably has a collection of them. That's gross.
Yeah.
So you mentioned last week that you think Cognis is a better apprentice, the Tochi assassin who's all throughout the book, and as the book goes on, you realize there's a little bit more to her character, and then finally she betrays Sarah and the other one, Sarah's bodyguard,
Mhm.
and
Lucia.
yeah, there it is. That was
Lucia.
gonna drive me
Lucia.
drive me nuts.
Lucia.
It was, at midnight, I was gonna sit up in bed and be like, Lucia, if you hadn't said that. So and then goes to Bane. It's like, listen, actually, I'm on your team. I'm a double agent, and I want to be a bad guy. Would you train me in the ways of Sithness?
This is my
And
destiny. I've been waiting. My whole life is about this moment. She
You're bad
realizes
guy.
it.
I want to be bad guy too.
Yeah, that's kind of how it came across to me. And Bane was like, "You're in luck. My other apprentice sucks," and takes her. And then when they get to the final battle, Xana shows up and she's like, "Actually, I am not on Bane's team. I'll be on your team if you win. So you guys duke it out, and I'll be right here waiting."
Yeah.
I wasn't sold by Cognis. What did you think, Freddie? You were more favorable toward the character.
Yeah, definitely sadistic and evil
Mm-hmm.
in a very scary way, like a very not a psychopathic way, even worse than that. So a sadist, I guess, someone who revels in other people's pain,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing, being in a very dire situation, and the huntress just plays with these people's emotions like they're toys and is smiling about it. She knows what she's doing. That, to me, that's like the most evil thing ever. More evil than just like stealing something as a wannabe dark side Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is what a Sith is, not what Set is. And just the way the audiobook made it sound, her just reveling in being just full of joy, seeing these people in very, very sharp pain. I mean, this is like friendship level pain, betraying, death, everything, and just loving it. And that to me, that was like the most sadistic thing ever. And it was very chilling to see that. And I was like, that's an absolute Sith right there. You can only imagine what the huntress would be like as a fully trained Sith.
Yeah.
Darth.
We've got somebody in the
Terrifying.
chat named Jessica who says that the only thing more sadistic is us giving people book and fandom addictions weekly. So
Oh.
Yeah. She's at McDonald's because she didn't get back home in time before we started the show. And so her choice to stay away, I'm like, listen, you can come home, but no, she's gonna be a troll for McDonald's. That's my wife.
that makes me hungry. Thank you. for that.
Yeah.
I know, right?
I'll jump
Speaking
in.
of clowns, yeah, go ahead.
I'll jump in and say I'm with Freddie on this. I think that Cognis is a really good apprentice option for the Sith. Set Hearth, I can't say it either. He is selfish, but he doesn't have ambition and drive for power. He's content just collecting stuff and living out his life. Whereas Cognis has that ambition that she wants power. She wants more and more power. And so like, I don't know if you remember this, but from our talk with like I think it was Path of Destruction early on, I mentioned that like they didn't like the Sith that we were exposed to in that book, they weren't evil enough, that they didn't do bad things. But Cognis, she has that evil layer that I would expect in a Sith. And so I think that she definitely is what I expected from a Sith. And so I think, I was like, okay, about time a real one showed up.
You know what's funny? Just kind of thinking of balance, right? Thinking if Bane was the most powerful Sith at that time, that means all of those other Sith were just extremely weak, to be honest. And to think that they were probably closer, some of those Sith, I bet you anything, they were closer to Set, where they were just all about collecting and goods and money, right? And that's the extreme of the dark side, right? Is Bane, which is the less purpose you have in life, the probably worse you are going to be as a Sith.
That's a good point.
I think maybe it would have worked for me if she had a name throughout the book instead of just the Huntress or the Itochi. I was the entire book, I was like, who is this? And the character didn't take for me. I think the fact of the matter is, none of the ancillary characters in this book can hold a candle to the GOAT that is Valentine Farfalla. Am I right?
Boo.
Any other characters you guys want to give a shout out to before we move on? Now that I've shouted out the greatest Jedi in the entire expanded universe, Valentine Farfalla. May he rest in peace.
Sarah. I thought Sarah, she was a complex character. I couldn't tell throughout the book. I felt like there were 3 potential apprentice options for Xana, right? There was Cognis, Sarah, and Set.
What? Sarah's
you didn't get that?
Oh yeah, totally.
Jared, did you read the book?
Emily, you are
back me up on this.
100%. So
I've read it 3 or 4 times, but dummy, and I need the women on the show to explain the real content to me.
Why did you say plural? There's just one woman right now.
No, but like when Charlie and Emma, every time there's a woman on the show, they blow my mind with something. Isn't it true, Freddie? Yes.
I'm glad I contribute in a meaningful way, Jared.
Cheryl, yeah.
Emily has a point here, and it's exactly what I was tracking. It's funny, I didn't track this when I first read the book. But after I listened to the audiobook, there are so many paths that are open to you that you're just like, okay, you have no idea what's about to happen. Is Bane going to choose Sarah? Is he going to choose someone else to be the apprentice? And they're going to have to fight Xana, or is Xana going to get one of them and kill Bane? Or, like there were so many different angles that this book could have gone in. And the entire time, when one went down, you're like, okay, now what? Okay. And it just keeps, and you're like, okay, Cagnis is still alive. And so is Xana. But now Bane, okay, now you finally get like that trio. It starts to whittle down everybody else, right? Because Set could be a contender, but then you see how much he's just completely self-interested. He has no motivation for power. He just wants to be rich and safe. And Emily, you hit it right on the head. There was like this maybe 5 different paths of where the story could have ended, and the whole time you were trying to figure out, okay, this is weird. Now Xana did this, she found Set, this is kind of throwing my story off. So I understand. Sarah was for sure a contender for a Sith apprentice, especially.
Wow, what a twist that would have been.
Yeah, especially because she had the healing powers, which how would that have morphed? So,
I mean, she's clearly like force sensitive in some way, and she has this like connections, right? Because she's married into this royal family, but she has this like disconnect because like Caleb, her dad, was killed by Bane, but like Xana is trying to kill Bane and Sarah is trying to kill Bane. So like Sarah definitely comes to the edge of like, if she goes further, she will turn to the dark side, and she chooses to stop at that line. And that's when she gives herself up and lets Xana kill her. But I thought the whole time, I couldn't remember because I'd read the book before. and I couldn't remember if Xana chooses Cognis or she chooses Sarah. I knew that she chose one of them in the end, but I legitimately couldn't remember up until the very last minute. I thought it was such a close call. So yeah, I'm interested to see if anybody else had that opinion too, because apparently this is new to Jared and he's read it several times, but I thought it was very clear the whole time.
Wind blown. The book just got so much better for me thinking about that wrinkle. Yeah, to think that she could have had her power, that's the potential to save life.
Yeah. Had
she followed down that quest for vengeance that she was on, it could have become the power to take life.
So many Darksiders enter this story as red herrings, and then like Set, right? He just takes off.
Oh yeah,
never see him again.
Sure.
And then Lucia, we're just like, okay, what is her purpose here? Like, what is going on? And then you see kind of her demise, and you're like, oh man, like, you know, I feel like what they try to do is show you how brutal and dark Bane is, and they just need to have some more evidence of like, hey, this guy really sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that saw that. Emily, that's a good. I know all the wrinkles with all the Darksiders that enter the story. Fairly interesting.
Wow, you know, that does bring up a good point. There's quite a few good red herrings in Legends books among like Darksiders. Think about Gantoris in the Jedi Academy trilogy. You kind of think, oh, he's going to be the villain, and you know, F's in the chat for Gantoris. He bites it pretty quick, and then it was Kip Duran the whole time, and Jason Solo. You know, we won't say a whole lot about that, but there's a little bit of that going on there too. Wow, amazing. Blew my mind. I at least appreciated with Sarah that she was a callback to Ambria and to Caleb, if you're that kind of person.
Oh, that's right, Caleb. Sorry.
So that whole story in their family in terms of like choosing the honorable path, the high ground, and Bane and Xana forcing his hand over and over. And then she comes back into play. So I thought that was a good kind of chess piece to have on the board. Didn't even see it going there. So, you know, we talked about the characters, Sarah, the Cognis, Bane, Hannah, you know, all of them. So let's talk about some of the overarching questions, though. That's what we like to do in part 2 of the roundtables. And obviously, the big elephant in the room here is that this idea of the Sith essence transfer has made its way back into canon with the rise of Skywalker. So how has episode 9 now, which is heretical content for us Legends folk, however, we've at least seen it. I mean, there's no way around it. How has the rise of Skywalker enhanced or detracted, you know, in your opinion, from the essence transfer ability?
Well, I'm glad that we're seeing a lot of influence of Legends in Star Wars, right? And it deserves it Legends deserves to be referenced in Star Wars, because there are a lot of good ideas in this era, right? In Legends, there's also not a lot of good ones, so we'll just cast those aside. But seeing essence transfer in a theater, right, and understanding what that looks like after reading Bane this time around, it was kind of horrifying to imagine how this whole experience just went down with the, you know, what do we call it, alleged transfer, because we don't know what the answer is. But it is validating, and I've said that many times, especially at Celebration. It's validating to see those things.
Talking about the essence transfer and the rise of Skywalker with fully clothed, however craggly fingered palps in episode 9, and how that detracts or possibly enhances the whole idea of the essence transfer. I think this book does a masterful job with it. I actually quite like the way it's handled in episode 9. I don't think it's, you know, the greatest movie in the world, but the idea that this is a Legends element brought back in, it's a totally credible dark side force power. Freddie thinks it was nice to see the Legends nod. Rick, you agree?
Yeah, I think it was cool to to kind of have that bit of history going into that movie, Legends history, I guess. It's always funny to say, real life world words in a fictional universe, but it was that lore, I guess, knowing that bit of lore. I don't know. It was powerful to me because it seemed like it was connecting with that lore, but at the same time, it had a level of like, not believability, but I don't know. It didn't seem corny to me because I had a previous understanding that kind of thing already existed in my headcanon and my understanding of the Star Wars universe and how essence transfer is a thing. And so even the finale there with Sidious and Rey, the whole I am all the Sith, I am all the Jedi thing, that was even powerful because it wasn't quite the same, but I could kind of see, if we're saying whether the theory of that Bane inhabited Xana and that continued, through every generation, is that a possibility?
Says, I am all the Sith. Oh,
yeah. I love
opens
that.
the door for that. Huh?
It does potentially, even if it's recessive, if Xana does take control, but the memory or the essence, I don't know. It's a possibility. So I was intrigued by it. And not sure what it looks like
really
on the light
powerful
side.
storytelling.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
Do you
What's
think there could ever be a silly Sith? Like a Sith that was just kind of silly? Or do you think that's not how Sith
we're talking about
are?
Darth Millennial in the chat here. I'm thinking about
Of course there could be a silly Sith. What more do you need? Yeah.
I just imagine like I am all the Sith and there's like one Sith. He's like, hello.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd definitely be Gungan. Like I think it's clear. But
it would be that crazy. Who is it? Lord Khan? Is that the crazy guy?
A little crazy.
It would be that dude who's like, we could all be together.
Yeah.
This will be fine.
Lord Khan is the one most likely to start a nudist commune. He's basically like
that dude is
trying
so
to start
weird.
his own cult.
Yeah.
Also, I think
love
the
it.
comic pictures him like with a goatee and a rat tail.
Enough said.
I think
He's like Jeru Sabayoth, but like a little bit more sane, but not really. I don't know. With a little bit more, I don't know, more clothes, less
now
clothes.
I need some Jeruis
Sure.
Sabayoth and Lord Khan fanfic. That's
Oh man.
stuff.
Can you
Definitely.
imagine?
Sabayoth
I am all the
poured
Sith.
the oil.
Jerus is like,
all
get
over
out of my
his
head.
ass.
Get out.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me. At Celebration, Rick, and we haven't told you this. We got to find this picture. There was a guy with absolutely cut abs, shirtless at Celebration.
Wow. Okay.
Cosplaying as a Jedi.
Uh-huh.
A shirtless Jedi, and Freddie and I took a picture with him pointing at his abs.
We did.
Saw
Nice.
that dude. And I was like, Jerus?
Just
Yeah?
missing a 1.5 foot long beard. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
That can be edited in post. That's fine.
Well,
Give it to you.
So
Yeah.
the Rise of Skywalker obviously did this, but it does raise the fact that this is a Sith obsession, the obsession with eternal life, right?
Mhm.
And with abs. So they have this obsession. Obviously, Bane, Plagueis, and Palpatine all try to unnaturally extend their own lives. Let me get another run at that. Ready? Unnatural. No, all right, we're not gonna get there.
That was like the redneck version.
I needed to have a take 3. Ready? Okay, so we won't do it. I faked Rick out though. Who did it better? The quest for eternal life. Who got the closest? Who had the best eternal life strategy? Bane, Plagueis, or Palps? Starting with you, Freddie.
Well, the interesting thing is the Sith believe that they are the Force, right? They embody the Force, whereas the Jedi live amongst the Force. So it's natural for them to want to hold on to that body for as long as they can. Now, who had the best story? I mean, you had the way Bane's essence transfer was described was kind of horrifying. Everything happened in a millisecond. His entire body just exploded, burned up, turned into ash, and he feels this hot searing pain. And there's a humongous chance that you're gonna get caught in Empada Joyos brand, right?
That would be something. That'd be the worst body to try to inhabit.
But what I'm saying is, I don't feel like well, in Plagueis, you you do hear a bit about it, but I feel like the way Bane's, the way this book described essence transfer, it was kind of scary, because thinking of if you remember the thought bomb, when it described the thought bomb, it described it as just a bunch of torment, these souls in absolute torment and agony, and eventually, like, it washes away, and that soul doesn't really become a thing. It's just a thing, it's just agony. It's not a soul anymore. And to hear that is kind of like, oh man, that's kind of scary, right? That's it puts it in a perspective of our world too. Like, if you were to just forever be in hell and having to endure that for eternity, the rest of eternity, which is forever. And having all of that described was pretty horrifying. I don't think I had that same feeling with anybody else when it came to essence transfer.
You're saying all the right things for us preacher types, so we better not get preaching. That's good.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, obviously Bane is at least somewhat successful. There's at least the hand twitch in the end. Plagueis is at least somewhat successful in the fact that he seemingly manipulates midichlorians to prolong the life of the Bith Jedi. What's his name? The Bith Sith?
Tenebris?
No, the one in the... Yeah, I mean, I guess so. The one that he keeps locked up in a bacta tank for like 40 years.
I think it's Tenebris. Isn't that his master?
I think so.
There was one that came against him, like one of a potential apprentice of Tenebris that he goes and confronts and then imprisons and experiments on for decades. Somebody in the chat will know and let us know.
Yeah.
It's gonna drive me nuts. And then Palpatine is, at least in Legends, at least somewhat successful in he transfers his consciousness into his clone, his naked bodies, right? So I think Palpatine is the most successful at this. However, I think Plagueis's plan was the best. Bane, therefore, is last place, in my opinion, in essence transfer, because though he discovers the secret to it, he doesn't successfully find a husk, another body that he can claim.
Husk.
And instead, Hail Mary,
fleshly husk.
That's right. He Hail Marys a last ditch attempt into Xana, who's way too mentally strong to inhabit. So I'm going to say Bane is last place. And all right. So
I'd get
I think
behind that.
Palps takes the cake on that.
Palps takes the cake for me and for Emily.
Yep. I'd say Palps had
because of Dark Empire. You haven't read it yet, have you, Emily? We got to get there.
He Palpatine had contingencies, and he was realistic. He almost didn't trust in the Force, where he said, yeah, the Force might be able to allow an essence transfer or whatever, but I'm going to do some scientific things too to make this happen with cloning. And that's both canon and Legends, In canon, he had lots of contingencies and all these plans, and Legends, even the cloning there, like he had a plan. So he's successful. But shout out, I almost said something else, to Darth and Dedu for actually discovering this.
Yeah.
And Bane just took the credit. Yeah. But who knows what happened to Darth and Dedu? How come he didn't do more with it, huh?
There, something just kind of came to me a little bit here. With thinking of essence transfer, right? Bane could barely get Darth Xana, and Palpatine infiltrated how many of his clones? That's crazy.
Sure.
To think that he's able to essence transfer a good amount of times. Of course, each one, it breaks down the body, but to be able to freely do it, I guess because they have no will. But how many times do you think Palpatine essence transferred? He must be like at this point just an absolute master.
Yeah, for sure. Emily, I can't wait for you to read it. So I just was invited the other day to talk about Dark Empire on the Cosmic Force in August. They're gonna cover it, so I think that's your chance to read it and join in on that discussion live in the chat every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/YOUTINI. Man, podcasting 100 episodes or so has really made me way too egregious with ad placements. All right. Rick, did you chime in out of all these? You said
I said Palps. Yeah.
that maybe Endedu squandered his opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, Bane takes the credit for Ndedu's work, but I think Palps was the most realistic and had a plan, so he did it better.
Bane didn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was gonna die, and he was like, "It's now or never."
Yeah,
Right?
he'd grown weak.
Blame it on the snakes, the conjured Sith snakes. Now, you did mention, Freddie, a moment ago that this is in some way similar to the thought bomb, which I appreciated the symmetry of it all, like poetry, it rhymes, right? Or like in biblical studies, maybe this is in literature too. I don't know. I'm so locked into the Bible. There's a technique called an inclusio. So like something at the beginning and an end of book of the Bible, or I guess of any story that kind of bookends it thematically. And so I appreciated that this was in both the first and third books of the trilogy, that your consciousness could be trapped for all eternity in limbo.
Oof.
Kind of as
terrifying.
The cautionary tale of the darkest side of Sith powers, right?
Hey, it's good to see that Master of Divinity at play. This is nice.
That's right. It helps me sound pretentious on my Star Wars podcast. All right. So we're going to get back around to a classic game Freddie and I have been playing since the good old days of Legends Look Back. And that is a good old fashioned Would You Rather Death Edition.
Ooh.
Ready for this, Freddie? We've done a few of these, right?
Yep.
So would you rather be imprisoned in the thought bomb for 1,000 years until you're rescued by Kyle Katarn? Or would you rather be trapped in limbo in the nebulous space between your own body and the consciousness of another person?
B.
Emily says B, which is, let me consult my notes, possibly having to share a body with Darth Zana. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
however,
not a bad way to go.
Could potentially be limitless, whereas we know the other one has a cutoff because Kyle Katarn is on his way in the Valley of the Jedi. All right. Freddie, was your opinion?
That's a tough one. I guess what kind of rescue Kyle Katarn, being free eventually and your spirit living happily wherever. Well, unless you're a Sith, I guess. I don't know what happens there. I don't know what that world looks like. But if I had to choose one, I guess it depends on what kind of limbo we're going for, right? If it's like you literally cannot do anything, you're just stuck. That's fine. But I guess if you're observing Darth Zana, I almost said Hannah. If you're observing Darth Zana, then at least it's kind of like a movie. You can see her whole life until she dies, and then do you get released? I'm not really sure what the rules are here, but
or is it like a mental tug of war for the rest of her life?
Well, eventually you could weaken her and probably take over if that's the case. So if that's possible, I would rather be
it sounds exhausting,
fighting for consciousness. If I have nothing else to do, I might win. So
okay, Freddie chooses that option as well. Rick?
Yep, I would beat her down with dad jokes until I was the superior consciousness.
Totally, Rick would win for sure.
100%.
Everybody agrees. Nobody wants to share consciousness with Rick. So congratulations.
Yay, Rick.
You have won. The big problem with the thought bomb, because I just recently did the Dark Forces audio dramas, is the way the audio dramas portray the sound of the spirits trapped in the thought bomb.
Yes.
So that it is
terrifying.
It is horrifying. They're like,
There's
like
weeping and gnashing of teeth in that thought bomb. Let me just say.
Gotta stop and say a little prayer halfway through
Amen.
because it's just it's concerning.
It's probably because Khan started up his nudist commune inside the thought bomb egg. Yeah, that's cramped quarters for
that's
sure.
A thought bomb.
But I do have a question that goes off of that. So when the Jedi die and they pass into the Force, is that included in the is the dark side included in that? Because there's a light and a dark side. So are the Jedi and the Sith, when they die and are absorbed into the Force, does that include both Sith and Jedi?
Technically, no. The thing is, when a Sith dies, that's it. They lose everything. unless they've somehow cursed a temple to house their soul, right? Something
Which
like that.
happens quite often in
Happens-
Legends.
It
Every
does
temple you
seem
see
to
in the world,
be
probably a Sith temple,
popular.
probably
Yeah.
has a ghost.
Wherever there's moss crawling up some stone,
Yep.
there's a Sith spirit in there.
Most
you know for
definitely.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jessica says she already shares a consciousness with Rick.
I was
Yikes.
thinking about that. I was like,
It
Where's
the
totally
Jessica
stopped us.
man?
There was pure silence in the chat when we
So
read that. We
salty.
just all stopped.
I didn't even read it till y'all pointed it out. I'm over here smiling. And then, oh,
I mean, as soon as she posted it, it was pure silence. Pure
Nice.
That
silence.
was
All right.
funny. That
That's a
was
good
hilarious.
one. Congratulations to Jessica for dunking on Rick in the most
that's in the
spectacular
chat for
way.
my self pride.
Mm.
Absolute dunk. All right. She'll be drafted in this NBA draft before the night's over. Probably by the Thunder. They've had 4 first-round draft picks. All right. So we all agree that the thought bomb is not the way to go. However, nobody will
Yeah.
share a consciousness with Rick. So that's a good Legends Would You Rather.
That was great.
And I do wonder, though, how do you go about starting over? I mean, obviously, Bane has started this whole new Sith legacy, right?
Mhm.
He's paved a new path. Xana, not so successful, at least on the front end, in recruiting an apprentice. It's got to be hard to kind of start off finding a new apprentice when you've been the apprentice, right?
Mm.
And the Force definitely kind of put her in Bane's lap. But the whole thing on Rusan when there's Bug and Tomcat, and Rain, the bouncers. So, yeah, you had to be there. It's weird. How would you go about recruiting a Sith apprentice? You just post a resume on ZipRecruiter?
Yeah, eHarmony, something like that.
It doesn't seem like it worked especially well with Set Hearth, at least.
True. I'd probably go to the lowest level of Coruscant and see what happens.
That's
Just
the
look
thing,
for
right?
some
Your
grotesque.
mission,
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
your
murderous.
mission would be to find an apprentice, right? Because every Sith needs a mission, whether it's everlasting life, knowledge, finding an apprentice. I always feel like the apprentices that they kind of groom them, and this is kind of that grooming Sith mentality that look at Anakin. I mean,
I watch your
he-
career with great interest.
Yeah.
exactly. He was groomed
Hmm.
slowly, very methodically to
Yeah.
mistrust his master and his colleagues, right? That's basically what happened. And I think that was part of Palpatine's mission. He needed someone to be the body, and whatever it took to find that body, which is as close to the Jedi Temple he can get.
I wonder if the best strategy is to play hardball.
Mm-hmm.
Because Cognis finds Xana. She didn't recruit her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She's like, hey, the Force led me here. Obviously, the Force put Xana in Bane's lap.
Mm-hmm.
Best strategy is to do nothing.
Trust in the Force.
That's what Set Hearth would do. That's for sure. He would do nothing.
You know what? If you become a gray Jedi, will you be as powerful because you are in the balance, right? And if you got rid of the Sith and maybe some of the Jedi, would you become the most powerful thing because you were a gray Jedi?
It's a good question.
Oh, we need to. I almost crossed over into Lord of the Rings and said, "Yeah, the gray is nothing but wait for Jedi the white." But
The
Oh,
White Jedi. We're a little bit more
Yeah.
inclusive than that here at UTini.
oh,
right, so-
wow,
the white, the gray, the dark,
yeah,
all sides.
All of it. Yeah. I do wonder though. I mean, it's got to be a tough one. You can only find one apprentice in the entire galaxy.
mm-hmm.
Man, yeah, I like the idea of wandering around the Coruscant underlevels. Hey, I see you're good at murder.
Right?
I
Maybe-
also
ooh.
like murder. Also, grand plans.
Maybe. Okay, here we go. This is it. We're
Rick's
gonna
crack the code, y'all. Here we go.
Yep. We're gonna kidnap a bunch of people and take them to a planet
it,
and
got
do
it.
like Hunger Games style
No.
Sith
Oh
apprentice.
my
I would read that
gosh.
for
Only
sure.
one of you can be my
That would be the
apprentice.
most Sithy thing ever.
Yeah.
Like early in the
Well,
early days.
But you don't
Yeah.
tell them that's what it is.
Yeah.
You just tell them you're
Yeah.
inviting them to like a drug
It's-
deal.
It's like Rat Race of Star Wars.
I mean, that's
Oh, man. It's
basically
pretty good.
that's basically
Yeah.
what well, uh it's not really I guess what is the movie called? Hunger Games? Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not really Hunger Games, but like the Sith Academy was fairly stab your back kind of place. So we did
Mhm.
get a little bit of that at the very beginning of this trilogy.
That's true. That's very true. Yep. Have to one up each other and all that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the comment from Justin in the chat. Hey, you're pretty good at murder. Ever thought about going pro?
I love that. That's what I would do. I would like probably go to the bounty hunters, sort of like the huntress, like find some
Hi,
people
I'm
who's
Darth
like
Hannah.
Yeah.
right, who's like irrationally, like unexpectedly good at something, because that's like
Yeah.
red flag for the force. Because you want somebody driven, right? You don't
Mhm.
want to just
Yeah.
like nobody wants a set.
Yeah.
I
Like-
want someone with no hope, but wants to
Yes.
find hope.
Or and
on something.
imagine if
Yes.
there's a Jedi who's got questionable, he's kind of maybe got some.
You're
he's
not supposed to
of his-
recruit Dark Jedi, Rick. We've
No,
only
no,
got
no.
2 rules. One of
I-
them is there can only be 2. The other one is no Jedi allowed.
No, but like that's
NJO, man.
you gotta
NJO.
you gotta
That's
you
the
gotta.
NJO. That's what it always stood for. All right, we'll hear you out, Rick. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you kidnap a Jedi that you've noticed has some difficulties swallowing some of the orders, and you drop him in this Hunger Games, and you see if he takes the high road and tries to save lives, or if he devolves and ends up start taking lives. It could be fun. It could be fun.
That would
I
be-
legit
Take all of their
endorse.
close family members and just like slowly kill them.
Uh,
But like
now I'm
make the other
scared.
person Sith sorcery the other person into doing it all. And
Man,
that person is like, I mean, I've already done it. Might as well.
yeah,
Hold on.
this
I don't know.
this got
There's
dark.
something behind me. Hold on. Wait, that's the line. Yep,
Oh,
Emily
and the
crossed it. We're
Jedi.
way past it.
Oh,
Way past it.
I'm
Emily,
sorry. I'm just
hold on.
like I said, I
we're
just
taking it
finished
back.
Plagueis. This is like very much
Yeah.
on my mind.
You're in a dark place. We get
I'm
it.
in
So
dark
so
place.
check it out. This
Torture.
is how the book's
Okay.
gonna go, right? There's gonna be a Jedi who's dropped into this whole thing. That person has to survive, and they're gonna try to. Yeah, I'm not gonna say everything, but they're gonna try to influence some people to let's escape. Eventually, this person has to destroy everything, and let's see, what was the part that you just mentioned, Emily? Oh yeah, the sorcery. Turns out it was a dream the whole time. It was a Sith dream. There you go.
Sithception.
Yeah, there
Sith
you
don't
go.
have dreams.
The
They
Jedi wakes up
exclusively
from a
have
nightmare,
nightmares.
and it was all a dream.
That's pretty good. That's pretty all right. Rick, I give your idea Legends stamp of approval.
Woohoo!
Did it? Unfortunately, we stopped making Legends books, so
Oh,
it had to be written before 2014. So go see if you can make that happen. Speaking of books that were written before 2014, I wonder what it would have been like. We've had a lot about this in the chat over the last few weeks. If Karpyshyn were to write another Star Wars book, what would you like to see him tackle? What character, what time period? Would you want to see him continue something he developed in the Bane trilogy? Obviously wrote a couple other Star Wars books. Wrote a couple Old Republic books, didn't he? What's the one you just read, Freddie? Is the other
Fatal
one.
Alliance.
So not that one, but the other one.
There's Revan, Fatal Alliance, Deceived, and
Annihilation. There it is.
Annihilation.
Yeah, I think he wrote that one. And he wrote Revan. Is there another one? Are those only 4? Are there only 5 Bane trilogy? I feel like I'm missing something. Obviously, Knights of the Old Republic is a game. All right. I've riffed long enough. Surely you've thought of something by now. What would be Karpyshyn's grand return to Star Wars if you were the one writing the checks?
An Anakin origin story.
It's called The Phantom Menace.
Well, no, but like before, like his conception.
Immaculate Conception.
Like, yeah, like it's like what a weird.
So
like,
so Shmi's the main
question
character.
mark.
What if
The midichlorians. Come on.
Yeah.
how would you feel
Pedestrian.
if Drew took over, like if he wrote a book about Plagueis, right? Like bringing Plagueis into canon or something, bringing because he's very good at writing Sith and horror. That's for sure. And so giving us a taste of just a little bit before, or like Palpatine, the Plagueis era, I guess, just before that whole thing. Honestly, I'm not sure what's going on in canon now, so I can't tell you if that's happening. But I'd like to see.
Idea.
I'd like to see a little bit of that.
Okay, Rick.
Yeah,
raising
Is that
your
going on
hand?
in canon?
I was raising my hand. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was excited. Let's do Knights of Ren story.
That'd be sick.
That'd be
You
good.
win.
Thank you.
I changed my answer to Rick's.
I mean,
Or-
it's out there. The Rise of Kylo
Yeah, I
Ren
know,
comic.
I know.
It does
They-
it really well.
Yeah,
4 issues. We just nailed it.
that's all you need.
That's it.
Or we do the Sith Hunger Games by Drew Capri.
The Sith Hunger Games. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going
Cool.
to endorse the idea
My
that's
vote's into
been
that.
floating around the chat, like the sequel to all of this with Xana and Cognis, and then whatever goes off the rails with Millennial. We're not totally sure, but we're getting some of it tonight in the chat. Something about a reference book. I'm going to be doing some searching on the Wook before the night's all over. It sounds interesting, that's for sure. I'd like a story about it. Absolutely. I part of me is tempted to say like a Revan story, but he wrote the Revan book, and it's fine. It's okay. It's going to be reprinted. We'll talk about it some more next week as we get into the Legends news, part of the next wave of Essential Legends collections. However, I would like to hold out hope that should there be a Knights of the Old Republic remake that's theoretically happening, right? I'd like to see something tied into that written by Carpathian, like the grand return, like he's finally back writing a Star Wars book, maybe the story of the Mandalorian Wars proper, like how Revan defected, and written from his and Malik's point of view. I want to see their bromance, I want to see Malik steal Revan's girlfriend, like in their college years.
Oh my gosh.
I'd
Talking
like to see
about-
that.
Freddie and I
Alex,
saw
steal
some
your
of that.
girl.
Some of that happening at Celebration. So let us know, everybody in the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube or in the Discord, what you would like to see if that were to happen. So, guys, we're going to wrap it all up for tonight. One final question. In the grand scheme of things, Palpatine's reign only lasted 20 years. Bane, we're still talking about him all these years later. Not for his nudity, like we are Palpatine, but for the fact that he got the ball rolling and set all of this in motion. That his brutality, his curved lightsaber, all the great things about him. Other stuff, he smashes holocrons out of frustration and impatience. I mean, what an amazing Sith Lord. All right. He set all these events in motion, and I wonder, did Palpatine ruin the grand plan? Did he kind of squander his inheritance as the Sith to rule the galaxy? It's a leading question. Obviously, I think so a little bit.
I feel like he cheats because he took like 3 apprentices. That's too many.
He wasn't a big enough believer in the rule of 2. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's possible, but also that was instilled on Vader, right? Vader had a couple of apprentices himself, or at least one that I can think of right now off the bat. But Star Killer. So
Nice guy in person, Star Killer.
Yeah, very very cool guy, but they're not really. It seems like they've kind of steered off the path of the rule of 2, in my opinion. It squanders the focus of one to embody the dark force and one to crave it. Instead, it's like one embodies it but also wants to have other apprentices, when they should be focusing on just studying how to be the best that they can be.
I think
Right,
that
that's what they
Palpatine
should
was
focus their attention
more
on.
in love with himself than he was with Darth Revan. That's the real problem. Bane
Yeah.
loves Revan. Palpatine loves himself. In Return of the Jedi, the movie with Jedi Rocks, the greatest musical number in the history of the galaxy. Tell that to Figure and Dan. At the end of Return of the Jedi, Palpatine is looking out the window at the Rebel fleet getting decimated, and he turns to Luke and is just in love with his joke, his dad joke, if you will, Rick. And he says, I'm afraid your rebels are, what does he say? The Death Star is quite operational. He just thinks he cannot keep it together. He thinks it's hilarious. I think Palpatine squandered Bane's inheritance because he was more in love with himself than he was Revan. You can take that to the bank. What y'all think?
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think
That's a good point.
I think the rule of two is destined to fail, and the idea of the Sith being supreme was destined to fail. That's not how the Force is meant to be. It's not how the Force works. And so, you can blame Palpatine, but I think it was inevitable. This is wow, like a Calvinistic view of the Force, I guess. Where
Destined.
yeah, predestined, where it's not going to work. There's going to be balance that balances itself out, and all that. So yeah, he definitely made mistakes, but it was going to happen. The Sith weren't going to reign forever. Plus, that doesn't sell books and stories. The good guys have to win eventually. So
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that it was destined to fail, because I'm going to add on to that. Whoever inherits the galaxy from the rule of two is destined to buy into their own hype and to think that they are the greatest thing since, I almost said sliced bread. Do they have that in Star Wars? Since those
Since hot
muffins that Ray
chocolate.
makes. Yeah, since
Yeah.
hot chocolate. Thank you, Freddie. Hey, we got to talk about that. There's a hot chocolate thing that I can't talk about yet. Embargo. So we'll get there. It's relevant again. I'll say that much.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever inherits the galaxy from Bane is bound to the pride, the pitfall of being enslaved to fall to their own pride, don't you think? Palpatine thinks he can do no wrong and nobody, that he's invincible, and that's the real problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem with ruling the galaxy. You don't have enough dissenters that you keep in your corner. You can't be in an echo chamber. All right, I'm gonna start preaching if we're not careful.
Come on.
Emily just shakes her head. Do you agree? Disagree?
I don't know, man.
We're gonna call it a night.
Okay.
Thoughts on
Now
hot chocolate,
I'm like dying
yay
to tell you guys
or
about the hot
nay?
chocolate thing.
I
Yeah.
know I'm a little stuck on that, but we can move
It's
past if we
in-
need to.
Luke and Lando. I think the embargo's up. If not, we can cut this out. Luke and Lando drink hot chocolate in Shadow of the Sith.
Is it
I
called
know.
hot chocolate?
Huge spoiler for the new canon book happening here on the Legends show. Yeah, not spoilery at all, but I was pleased for sure. And on that, ladies and gentlemen, you can go and drink your own hot chocolate now that this episode is over. But first, we've got to rank the trilogy, got to rank
Yes.
the book,
Yes.
and we're going to call it a night. Out of all the Bane books, how does this one stack up? We now have 5 categories, right? I've got to look at my list.
Yeah.
They
Give me
are
my rubric.
masterpiece. That's the only one you need for this one. Okay. No. Incredible, good, fair, and finally, bottom tier, which Ruins of Dantooine does not belong on. And I will die on this hill. Mediocre. So
Can we just call that one meh?
it's the iJedi tier. You know what I'm saying?
Meh.
Actually, I think it's fine. All right. So masterpiece, incredible. I'm gonna say this for me is the weakest of the trilogy. However, still incredible, though
This one feels
not
darker to
a
me.
masterpiece. Go ahead.
This one feels a lot darker to me. This one feels without hope in a sense. Like you know Sarah is going to die. Nothing's gonna become of her story. She's gonna die. Period. Bane is likely done, right? It's a lot of basically there's no hope. The Sith are continuing. The person who was supposed to be the protagonist, right, in my opinion, ended up dead, with no future, no, she wasn't going to become a Jedi, not a healer, just no future for her. And that's the most like evil thing ever, to rob somebody of that future, of their future. And it didn't quite, it was a book that put you in a place of fear, or at least thinking about, oh man, imagine if this huntress was just playing with your emotions in the worst way, in the worst way possible. Like, oh, your dog, accidentally escaped, and there's a giant tractor out there, and your whole family's in a car, and like it's not just a little thing. It's like it's a pretty drastic betrayal, for instance. Um, it definitely got you feeling a lot of emotions of what essence transfer takes, and how that went and how that felt. That must have felt an instant of pain.
I thought it
Intense
was
pain and heat.
sticking the landing, at least at the end. I thought that last
Yeah.
chapter of the battle and the culmination of the two of them and the essence transfer, I thought that was sticking the landing. I didn't think that the whole book, every page, every chapter was as cohesive and coherent as the other two books.
Nothing like the first one, in my opinion. The first one's a masterpiece. It introduces you to Bane, and you see him rise through the ranks of evil, and he's at the top of his game.
So we've got some disagreement here. Yeah. So Freddie, you say 1 is superior to, and then how do you rank 2 and 3?
What is the one under masterpiece?
Incredible.
This is an incredible book. It is absolutely incredible, but the first book to me is the best one of the trilogy, so I have to give that one the
so that's 1
title.
So how do you rank the next 2? Give us your order. We got some of this happening in the chat. Skooma Joe says, for me, it's 1 is superior to 2 to 3. Justin says it's 3, 1, 2. I say 2, 1, 3. We've got some real disagreement happening here. Freddie, you've got what?
I'd have to say what Rick put in the chat is 1, 3, 2.
1, 3, 2. Okay, you guys are ranking my favorite as the worst of the trilogy.
It's not a bad book by any means. It's still a great book.
Yeah, he did write it in a huge rush.
Darth Donatello is not my favorite. We've been over this.
Who's what?
Remember the what's it called? Orbalisk? Like I pictured a big turtle shell.
The turtle
and so in my head it was Darth Donatello the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that one was an interesting twist. What a sick, like, I love how Drew Carperston like really explores the range of evil, right? You've got like weird parasitic, like kind of give you power, but kind of leech the life out of you. And then you have like sorcery and alchemy. Like he literally wrote the book on it. Like he just invented the dark side basically. And
totally.
How it has this whole range that you don't see in canon at all.
Yeah.
I love it. Some of it lately with the High Republic, some more inventive, original storytelling with the villains and with the Force specifically.
That's true. That's true. Martian Rose, like he's pretty low.
Twisted stuff. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, Freddie's gonna know what we're talking about one of these days. He's gonna have to transfer his consciousness to another fleshy husk in order to actually ever get to the High Republic. But by the time he does, he'll know what we're talking about. Well. All right, so real quickly around the horn, your rankings. We've got Freddie and Rick agreeing at what was the order there?
1, 3, 2.
3, 2. And then Emily, yours was what?
1, 3, 2.
Okay, yeah, fine. I'll be the only one that's right if I have to be. That's fine.
Go ahead, Jared. After you're done, I have a little soapbox.
No, I already gave mine. 2, 1, 3.
Okay, 2 and 3. Okay, so here's the thing. These books are all very, very good. These books are all relatively close to masterpiece. So we're not, at least not on my end. I'm not saying any of these are bad at all. And it really depends on what you like. For instance, the first book, the reason why I liked that one so much, and it's number 1 for me, is because I'm a martial artist. I love martial arts. I've been doing it my whole life. Judo, karate.
Incredible battles.
Eskrima. Yeah. And seeing that written, Bane learning a sword martial art and going through that and putting my experience of learning martial arts and how frustrating it can be and just trying to master it is very difficult. Your foot has to be in the right placement, your head has to be looking in the right direction, your other foot has to be pointing in the right direction, and you have to be facing forward or to the back, and it's very technical, and seeing that made me like that a lot. And so that's why I put that at a number 1, not saying that the writing was any better. It's all just personally experience.
Yeah, for you. Yeah. Okay.
Bakura, number 1.
Okay. Well, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this, especially if you agree with me that this is the worst of the trilogy. However, one of the best Star Wars books, which is saying a lot of just how immaculate this trilogy is.
Incredible.
And it's been a pleasure to cover it. I'm gonna have to read Power Ranger comics all day tomorrow to cleanse my palate from the dark, evil book that this was. Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Just to say, yeah, the rereadability of this trilogy is what makes it a masterpiece. The fact that we can read it again and again and still find new things. We definitely need to take some breaks and read something nice and happy in between. But yeah, it's a great trilogy, and there's bits and pieces that I absolutely love on all three books for sure.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here live in the chat. It's really been hopping tonight. I had a lot of fun. I've enjoyed hearing your opinions, your thoughts, and especially those who have agreed with me. Hey, if you want to hear about some other kinds of content coming up on Monday night, we've got the second part of the Brotherhood Roundtable happening on the Living Force. On Wednesday night, the Greg Pak Spotlight. Can't remember if that's a writer or an author, but you know what? I'll know on Wednesday when I watch that one live. And then our next episode of Legends Look Back, sans Rick and Emily. Woo, we're gonna have to find some new apprentices. Thankfully we talked about how to recruit them tonight. We're going to talk about the best book covers in the history of Star Wars Legends. So guys, you'll at least have to give us your picks before.
I'd say the backside.
No, wait, save it. And
I'm not gonna be here.
Oh, show us what you've got.
Freddie's got it right there. The backside of episode 1 with Watto staring at Freddie this entire episode has been very unnerving.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's somebody joined the chat earlier
cover.
and said something about it.
Yeah, there it is.
I
talking
saw the
about?
water earlier. Chose to ignore it.
Yeah, your powers don't work on me. Only money. And speaking of which, thank you to our incredible patrons for your amazing support. A special thank you to Brian Dooley, Earl Q, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander as on the Jedi High Council, as well as Matt Billington, Elizabeth Cloutier, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on the Alliance High Command. Remember, everybody, to sub to the channel. Leave us a review in your podcast platform of choice. And, of course, if you would like your thoughts, I almost said thoughts and prayers. What a week I've had. If you want your thoughts read,
I mean, we'll take prayers too. Let us know.
Why not?
In DMs, please. If you want your thoughts read on the show, you can email us at legendslookback@youtini.com. Send us a message in the Legends Look Back Discord channel. Leave a comment on this episode on YouTube, or you can find us on Twitter. I'm at Jared Q. Mays. Freddie.
At Wake Up Freddy.
Rick.
At Rick_Grace.
Emily.
At Darth Daybeck.
Or the podcast proper at Legends Look Back. If you're looking to buy some of the books, such as the Essential Legends Collection copy of Darth Bane, Dynasty of Evil, with that delicious art by Simon Goignard, or not that one, Freddie. I don't think they can buy those suckers. You got to go to the thrift bookstore to find. Of course, you can go on over to youtini.com, click the Amazon link in the profile, and we get a few cents to help keep the lights on, and you get an amazing book, depending on what book you buy, whether or not it's amazing. But after you've read it, hey, you can leave us a review and let us know what you think. Was it amazing? Was it not? Somewhere in the middle. And of course, no matter how you rank it, make sure that when you do, to keep the YOUTINI fan code and to be a force for positivity in the fandom. It's been a lot of fun. You guys have a good one. May the force be with you.
This is a YOUTINI broadcast.